Logan, the Colts have a lot of needs. Luckily, the NFL draft is 2.5 weeks away. So we're here to talk about who the Colts need, what positions should the Colts target in the NFL draft. We'll talk a little bit free agency positions, who should the Colts draft, some people that are available. Um, but yeah, the draft is coming up. It's 2 weeks away. I'm excited because we get to talk more football. But Logan, talked about this a little bit before the episode. Colts have a lot of needs. I think they have a few glaring holes that need to be fixed, whether it's in free agency or draft. But who do you think the Colts should start with round two? Are we talking names? Are we talking positional values? Whatever you think there.
Yeah, well, last year, if you remember, Cup listeners, I really was locked in, right, on like one prospect in the first round, and
You
I
were.
was like, it's either this guy or bust, and it was Tyler
Mm-hmm.
Warren, right? So, just want to again circle back around and toot my own horn a little bit that I was the one who predicted that we were going to get Tyler Warren. Okay,
Dude,
okay.
you were the
Another little cup
one
clap.
out of
Another.
like you were one out of like 200,000 Colts fans that were like, I want Tyler Warren.
No, I know,
Okay.
but I was like, you gotta admit, from day one, I was like, I don't want
No, you
anybody
were.
else. Like, I wasn't even like
You were.
open minded to anybody else because I was like, I just think it made too
Yeah.
much sense. But now this
Yeah.
year, I will say, to be fair, to your point, Addy, I don't think there's really, because we don't have a first round pick. I don't think there's any player that I've like attached myself to completely, just because I don't really know. I don't really know who's going to be available, man. When you start talking about second round, right, at the position that the Colts are in, you don't really know how the hell the first round could be a complete crap show.
Crapshoot.
Yeah, yeah, a
Yeah.
crapshoot. Yeah, like
Yeah.
literally. And then the
Crap show.
Colts are just a crap show. The Colts are just stuck like kind of picking up the scraps from the remainder, right, of the first round. Of course, there's still going to be some great value there. We all know that, but yeah, the draft is very unpredictable, especially when you don't have a first round pick. So I would
Yeah.
say positional value wise, I'm really definitely, I would say, attached to the Colts getting a linebacker. That's kind of how I felt. I just feel like with how the offseason went, right? You lose Zaire Franklin, which again, we could argue that it might have been addition by subtraction. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact of the matter is they're very light at that position, right? Definitely one of the weaker or potentially weakest linebacker cores in the NFL when it comes to starting experience and just production overall. And so, yeah, I do think that Chris Ballard needs to get his dart out on the dartboard and try to stick it again on another great linebacker prospect, like he
Mm-hmm.
has in years past in his tenure. So, I personally myself, if I had to throw a name out there, I do like Jacob Rodriguez a lot because I think he matches that whole experience thing, right? That you want to look for. You want to look for a guy who's like played a ton of games in college, and he did that. Multiple year starter, and he was even in consideration for like the Heisman for a while, kind of like Manti Te'o, back in those days. So I just think that would be cool to get a guy in that like has a lot of experience, knows what he's doing, because I do think that he would have to play right away with how weak the Colts are at
Sure.
the linebacker position. But other than that, man, I'm not really tied to anybody. I just know
Yeah.
that I just know that I got to go get a linebacker for sure.
Yeah. I know Rodriguez is the name that's been put out there. Anthony Hill, I believe out of Texas, is being
Mhm.
put out of there too. Linebacker seems like hey, Chris Ballard, this sounds like a no-brainer. Another no-brainer that I think would make sense, but I don't want Chris Ballard to do this is draft an edge. Chris
Mm,
Ballard and his edges, they seem to be just off, especially in the first and second round of NFL drafts. Maybe the for sure could be hit would be Latu, first defensive player taken 2 years ago in the NFL draft in the first round. But you gotta. Even if Chris Ballard does suck at drafting edges, sometimes you just have to keep throwing darts until something hits. It doesn't mean you don't draft edges, right? So
100%. Yeah.
I could see the Colts. I mean, obviously a glaring need is linebacker. We did get that. What's his name again? At the Cardinals, Gaither, or I forgot what his last name is, but a
It's like
veteran.
Akeem something others Gaither or something like
Yeah.
that. I gotta
He's
remember.
27, 28 years old. So he'll
Yeah.
probably start, in my opinion. And we've got backups like Jalen Carlisle. He still needs to figure it out. So linebacker seems like a hey must need. But I think edge is really important. And then I also think wide receiver is really important.
Mm.
And so if a
Yes.
guy drops that is supposed to go in the first round, and the Colts are like, hey, we just lost Pittman. We don't have Adonai Mitchell anymore. We've got Downs and Pierce and Tyler Warren catching balls. We need to add a little bit more depth and experience to that room. I could see the Colts taking a wide receiver there. I think worst comes. This is not even like, I don't know why I started this with like worst comes to worst. Pons, I think would be, if you're thinking like best player available. If Pons, the DB out of Indiana, drops to the second round, I wouldn't mind taking him. I understand we have a good amount of corners. You can't have too many, especially with the injury history, the concussions to Ward, and Justin Wally coming off an ACL, Kenny Moore getting older, and your perennial all star in Sauce. I think getting a guy like Pons could be huge for the future of the Indianapolis Colts at that position. So, eventually someday having a trio of Sauce, Pons, and Wally excites me. So that's just kind of a BPA, but I think it's not necessarily a glaring need. I think the glaring needs are for sure linebacker, for sure edge, and then we need to address the wide receiver position at some
Mhm.
point. If we're talking further along, like not only in the second round, but if we're talking more third, fourth, fifth rounds, I would love to take a chance on some type of running back. I don't
Oh
know
man,
what
yeah.
yeah, I don't know what Giddens is. He was a guy that was taken in the fifth that I think had last year that I think had the talent to be taken in like the third or fourth round, but clearly he just wasn't featured and got overtaken by Goodson and Abdullah last season. I don't know if it was the lack of being able to block or just not understanding his complicated Steichen's NFL offense in year one. But if he
Yeah.
doesn't take the next step, I mean, if Giddens doesn't take the next steps, the Colts need to address the running back two position with Jonathan Taylor. He'll be 28 this season at some point. So,
That's
um,
that is
or 27 or
historically
28.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
historically when running backs start to
yeah,
decline.
we've
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And we've gotten lucky. Knock on wood. He was fully healthy last season with that ankle injury that seems to be lingering around every single year. So I hope he stays healthy again. And he's just a force. But you need someone in the back end to give him time off, to give him a break, and to develop because Logan's right. 27, 28 years old, you start to see a little bit of fall off. He played 3 or 4 years in Wisconsin, a lot of tread in those years, and
Yes, a
especially
lot
for
of
a running back
carries,
like
yeah.
JT. Exactly.
Mhm.
So, not necessarily a second round. Obviously, it's not like a
Mhm.
glaring need, but RB2 is something that needs to be addressed, whether in free agency or through the draft.
It's great that I love that, by the way. I think I wholeheartedly agree. I think the Colts have been pretty decent over the years at drafting some of those backup running backs, right, for their main
Hmm.
guy. And I definitely believe that this is a draft that they have to do that in as well. I think I've been seeing actually. Do you remember the Mike Washington Jr. guy from Arkansas, the guy who ran that really fast 40 in the
Mm.
combine? There was like a video, it was like a viral video. He like was like crying because
Yeah,
he
yeah,
knew it
yeah,
was gonna like, you know, make his draft stock go up. He
yeah.
actually got linked to the Colts in a CBS Sports uh, mock draft in the third round, fourth round.
Okay.
So I mean, a guy like
I
that who has just explosive speed, right? Just like the one of the fastest running backs in the draft, probably the fastest running back in the draft. I wouldn't mind if they took a dart on him on third and fourth round. If you get a linebacker in the
I
first,
I wouldn't mind it. I will say like I wouldn't mind it, but I would rather focus, at least in the second and third round, on linebacker, edge, wide receiver, and
agreed.
then
Yeah,
if he happens to fall in the fourth or fifth,
yeah,
like take someone like that. So,
yeah. No,
but
agreed.
I
But
wouldn't
yeah,
mind it. I guess
that was definitely
best player
one
available.
that was one running back that was linked at least pretty early, which I was rather surprised by that because I think he was potentially going to fall to like fourth or fifth round, but then you know once you run a 4.340 at the at the draft, it
Oh,
gets
for
people's
sure,
or at the combine, it gets people's attention a little bit.
for
um,
sure.
yeah, I think a big need for me now too is I think people are slightly underestimating. I would say is the word I would use
Yeah.
that Pittman loss, man. I think Michael Pittman Jr. Big, tall, like strong, big-bodied wide receiver. It's hard to replace that right away because yes, Alec Pierce is going to be the number one. I get it. He's going to get a lot more targets. Josh Downs is going to get a lot more targets. We've talked about that. Tyler Warren's going to get a lot more targets, but I feel like Pittman's skill set was very unique to the offense. It really was. It was a very unique, different skill set than the other receivers. I would like to see them. I would like to see them draft somebody, maybe that third, fourth round at the receiver position if they can find a receiver that has similar physical traits to Michael Pittman Jr. A lot of people are talking about Surratt, right, from Indiana.
Indiana.
Very similar, similar body type, similar kind of like physical nature, high catch point, right? Will go up and catch a lot of contested passes, things of that nature. So, yeah, I
Well,
think that's also a need. So I couldn't agree with you more there as well on the receiver side.
no, no, that's fair. That's a really good take. What I would say is Steichen and Ballard have a decision to make at the wide receiver position within this draft. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is, okay, we signed Alec Pierce, $29 million a year. Did we sign him to still be that deep threat guy, or is he going to take over some of those Michael Pittman like routes, right?
Mm,
Complete the entire route tree and
hmm
be our true X. Now, if that is the case, who do we draft? Do we draft a Michael Pittman prototype, or do we draft a guy that can kind of replace? And Alec Pierce will still run those deep vertical routes, but do we draft a guy to replace and go more speed and long vertical routes like Alec Pierce used to play? That's the decision that I think Ballard and Steichen have to make when it comes to drafting a wide receiver, because they also mentioned, hey, we want to give Josh Downs, a really talented slot wide receiver, more targets. Oh, now, by the way, we got Tyler Warren in the picture too. So I think, if
So
obviously I still love the trade for Sauce, but I think,
right,
man, if we could have just kept Adonai Mitchell and hopefully someday
agreed.
figures it
Yeah,
out, that trio would have been really good. So it's just a decision now that the Colts have to
yeah.
make what direction a wide receiver they want.
Hindsight's 2020, but I do agree with you. I think I wish they could have gotten that deal done with somebody other than
Quiddy
Adonai
Pay,
Mitchell. I feel like they
someone.
probably could have. They probably could have thrown in somebody that had like second or first round value uh, with those first round picks. But hey, hindsight's 2020, so we don't really know that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have my doubts though on not on Josh Downs' skill as a player. I just don't know how he translates to a wide receiver 2 in the NFL.
Oh,
Like
he
a like
will
an actual,
easily.
like, lineup on the outside. I'm sure he seems like a guy that has the work ethic that if they're going to have him play, wide receiver 2 and just line up on the outside position, I'm sure he could do it, right? Like, he obviously is one of the hardest working dudes on the team, but I'd have to see that, right? And, like, I'd wanna, like,
I don't.
visualize it because 'Cause I've only seen him in the slot. I mean, like, really in the NFL, we've really only seen him play mainly in the slot. So,
So what I will say is, I don't think that to be a wide receiver two, he needs to necessarily play on the outside. Like he can be a
I
solid
hear
wide
you, yeah,
receiver two for the Colts and play
yeah,
on the inside, and then you draft a guy that can play on the outside. Tyler Warren can
that's
play
fair,
both on the
yeah.
inside and outside. So you have people in place. So let's say you go and you're just like fuck it, like let's go pay Jawan Jennings and bring him in as a Pittman replacement, and he plays on the outside with Alec Pierce. And then you've got Downs and Warren in the slot. So I mean,
Because as much as I love Downs too, like, you gotta think he's not really like, because of his size, he's not a guy who, has really been known as making his, like, money with being a blocker, right? Like, he's not
no,
gonna, like, go
he's a
out there and,
slot
like,
separator.
block like a taller, bigger, like, corner really, or like an edge. He's not gonna, like, chip an edge or like a linebacker or something. So, like, I agree with you. I think a guy like that's maybe what I'm talking about. Like the Colts need to find maybe somebody that can play that role. Then, if you're gonna let Josh Downs
Yeah,
be a wide receiver too, you got to go find a receiver that's a big body guy that can go block a dang corner down the field when
exactly.
JT's breaking out for a 60-yard run.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna miss with Pittman. Like I can't tell you how many times I saw in highlights, Pittman running 30, 40, 50, 60 yards downfield, blocking a guy, right?
Yeah.
Like actually trying to bury him into the dirt because of just
No,
like
I
the
agree.
the mindset, the mentality they had. So that's what I think they're gonna miss with the big body, physical wide receiver that
But
Pittman was.
now it's okay. Now we got to replace him. And I totally agree with you. I think Pittman was a phenomenal blocker, and we're going to miss that. But now it's
Yeah,
like, okay, we need a guy that can block to replace Pittman from that blocking standpoint, big body receiver. But now is this receiver, is he going to be a similar fit in talent to Pittman, or is he going to be more of a deep threat like Alec Pierce used to be to replace that role?
that's fair. Yeah.
And like I said, Alec Pierce still going to run those routes, those deep routes. He is very well known for being a speedy wide receiver that can take you over the top. But as he expands his route tree, we're paying him $29 million a year. He needs to be able to do that. and play kind of those Pittman-like routes, and run those Pittman-like routes, where do the Colts go? I'm really intrigued to see that in the NFL draft.
Dude, I was gonna say I'm actually super excited too, just to see. I'm so excited to see how they're going to use Alec Pierce because I'm like,
Yeah.
with the way they paid him, it's like, yeah, dude, like if you're gonna pay him that much money, like he's going to have to get 150 targets next year. So I'm
Oh,
very curious
100%.
on like what that looks like, what type of routes he's gonna run, what type of
Yeah.
route tree he's gonna have, what kind of role he's gonna have. It's gonna be very interesting to see. So
No,
that will
I
definitely
100% agree.
change, I think, their offensive approach to, going to the draft for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Other than that, I wanted to ask you one last thing. I saw NBC Sports, they put out a ranking for head coaches every single year. They've got our man Shane Steichen right at 15, so almost smack dab in the middle. What do you think? Too high, too low, just right for Shane
I
Steichen?
think, yeah. I think just right. I mean, if you're talking about record wise, 9-8, 8-9, 9-8, like, around that
It's
range.
been kind
So
of that every year.
yeah, from a record standpoint, it's like 500. I think he's better than most people give him credit for. But
Yeah.
kind of like what he's dealing with Anthony Richardson, dealing with Gardner Minshew injuries, and like all these different things. Like, but also you can't negate the collapse that happened. You just have to be more prepared when Daniel Jones goes down. And I don't think the Colts were. And part of it is Steichen, a lot of it is Ballard not being able to create that team that you need. But I think it's fine. I think 15 is okay. I think he's probably closer to a 12 in my opinion. Or even this is gonna be a hot take. Even top 10, I think he could be a 9 or 10 in regards to like the players love him, and it's been said. I mean, the report cards have been out. The players love Steichen.
This is a Colts
He's received
podcast,
an
guys. This is a Colts podcast.
it doesn't matter. He's received an A or an A minus by the players. Like the
No, I know. I'm
players
kidding. I'm kidding.
love Steichen as a leader. And so now I'm just like, okay, I think as a head coach, he's top 10. Hot take? I don't know, but
I
I recognize and understand 15. Like it's
I
fine.
think I think 15's high enough for me. I think I would probably put him at like 16 or 17.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I will say this: if we're talking about how effective he is in the media with media training,
Oh,
he
okay.
might
Yeah.
he
That
might be
bottom.
30. He might be 32.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
that's kind of affecting him a little bit because that is
See,
part of being a head coach. But
I definitely forgot about that, but I think wins eventually, if he's not 500, wins negate how
oh
you are,
oh yeah,
speaking
yeah.
to people.
This
But
dude
I
was
forgot about that part.
If this dude was taking us 10 and 7 and 11 and 6, 12 and 5 every year, I don't think people would
Yeah.
really give a shit. But
No, that's
yeah,
fair.
it definitely factors in, I would say. Just over
Yeah.
the years, it's kind of been a disaster when it comes to that. But
Yeah.
we'll see, man. I think we said this last year, but I do think this is another make or break draft and another make or break season for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder if this season it goes left.
Yeah.
Carly has said it. The urgency has never been higher. So
Yeah. I'm damn right. I hope they're right. But Cup fans, thanks again for tuning in. More draft content to come as the draft approaches. There's not a lot of Colt stuff to talk about, and so I think we're gonna be more on top of it now that the draft is coming nearby. We'll just have more things to talk about. Hopefully, more breaking news. But make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on all socials. Yes, we are on all socials. We put out videos. And thanks again for your support. And then we'll see you next week with the newest episode of Colts and Plus. And as always, go
go Colts.
Colts.